Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of my favorite podcast, personally, Cash Flow Positive. And hopefully it's your favorite podcast too. I don't know about that, but anyway, maybe it's on your at least top 10 list, right? So today we're going to be talking about real estate versus hospitality. And I'm going to slip in there too a little bit of information on the time value devaluation that people have of their own time, and maybe I could rephrase that a little better, but basically this whole idea of like short-term rentals versus long-term rentals and mid-term rentals, and like the numbers and cents and or dollars and cents, excuse me, and how that actually doesn't matter when it comes to hospitality. And we're going to dive into that a little bit of detail, but also this misconception that short-term rentals are passive and they're super easy, and it's switching from long-term rentals to short-term rentals is just simply about making more money. And many of us know that that's just not the case, but let's talk about what that means, because the biggest thing that I'm seeing a lot of people, so I talk to a lot of people on a daily basis about entering into the short term rental market, and most of them are concerned more so about entering in to make more money. They go, we've had long term rentals, okay, and now we're ready to have a really cool property somewhere awesome that we can visit and vacation to potentially, and we just want to make more money than long term rentals. And it's like, okay, cool. That's a great reason, why short-term rentals are better than long-term rentals, in my opinion. However, let me caveat that with a big however. You have to put in the time and the energy and the effort. There is a hospitality component to short-term rentals. And so this whole idea that real estate and short-term rentals are like one and the same is just not the case. It's more like short-term rentals and hospitality are one and the same, and they're coupled with real estate. And so you need to be good at understanding real estate, and then you also need to be equally as good, if not better, at understanding hospitality, because that is the business that you're running. One important thing that I want every single one of my listeners to understand to actually cash flow positive, the secret to cash flowing positive, this is it. If you listen to all of the episodes so far, it's all accumulated to this precise moment in time when I've given the exact secret ingredient to cash flow. I'm just kidding. There's a lot of ways to cash flow positive, but ultimately, though, when you take a step back, all the techniques from the different guests that I've had, or the things that I've shared with you across, like whether it's just actually acquisitions and buying versus more so on the operational side, cash flowing positive all comes down to a mindset from the beginning. And that mindset is around, this is a business that should be focused on hospitality, meaning that if you're trying to be a quote unquote hospitable host and take care of your guests and create that experience for them, that's creates a 5-star stay, and gets them excited and makes your property look nice. And we talked about moats and having unique aspects about your property which enhance the experience. You're going to make more money. It's as simple as that. I mean, I know that's like big talk, and oh yeah, it's easier said than done. That's so true. That's why there's, I don't know how many, 40 episodes, or I don't know how many there are. There's a lot of episodes talking about all the little things you need to do to get there, the mechanics of it. But sometimes we have to take a step back and realize, like, why are we doing this? What's your why? Um, a lot of people have different whys, and maybe I'll share mine to help, and hopefully it inspires you. And I think a lot of people too, like, let me back this up as well. Like, a lot of people's whys don't have to be this like crazy story or situation that necessarily like gives other people goosebumps. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people are like, look, like, I'm doing this to make money. And it's like, okay, we're all doing this to get money, but that's not really why we're doing it. We need the why before the why. And it's more like we're trying for time freedom. And that time freedom can mean different things to different people. And your time, what that meaning means to you, doesn't necessarily have to be this like, oh, like, my mom has cancer and we have to pay for that. And like, I'm not trying to undermine anybody in that same situation, but like, it doesn't have to be this like, game-changing situation for you of why you have to do this. Like, my back's up against the wall. If I don't do this, my family doesn't eat for, 3 weeks or something crazy. Like, it can just be, look, I want to spend more time with my family, and I am investing in short-term rentals because I love helping other people experience that time freedom too that I spend with my family, and I want to help them have that same experience. That is motivating me to go out and buy short-term rentals, to design and create that experience, and then operate and execute on that experience for every single guest that I host. That's motivation right there. If you don't have that motivation, what ends up happening is you get burnt out pretty quickly. So if you're listening to this and you don't have a short-term rental yet, and you're like, how do I get one? What do I need to do? How do I get started? Really, really starting with that why, besides just, oh, I'm trying to make money, but like, why are you doing this? Because there is the hospitality component, and you're going to have to get good at it. I was alluding to earlier that like, this is a business of hospitality, meaning like, if you don't like people pleasing, then you know what? Like, this probably isn't the right business for you. And I know, oh, sure, it's more profitable than long-term rentals and maybe even midterm rentals. But the reality is that there's a level of work that is involved to getting to the next level with short-term rentals. And you're just not hospitable. You either need to hand it over to a property management company and hope that you make money, or you just don't enter into this space, because accepting that this is a hospitality business is what's actually going to help motivate you and get you in the right direction to cash flow positive. And that's why we're doing this whole thing. So understanding first off that we're in a business and I have a why to motivate me for the right reasons to actually pull this off successfully is how you're going to apply all the different things that I or the many guests have talked about that I brought on here about how to cash flow positive. And so, this episode that I'm sharing with you guys today is more of like a general step back. And I want to share with you my why. I know I haven't gotten to that yet. I kind of was like, oh yeah, let me share that with you. But and I kind of beat around the bush, but I do want to share my why. And for me, I'm actually living it, which is kind of cool to like see the progression of it. So I'm going to do an episode, I think in about 2 or 3 weeks from this one, whenever this one comes out. But I'm going to do an episode of like how I got started in my journey, because I think it's important to listen to it. But keep in mind, like, my why isn't necessarily the same as your why, and that's fine. And frankly, like, I personally am in that camp where a lot of people are, it's like, I don't really have this, like, what I'm going to tell you, I don't think it's going to give you any goosebumps. I don't think it's going to like, if you're listening to it in the car, you're going to be like, yeah, banging your steering wheel, like pumping your arm, like, yeah, Kenny, yeah, we're going to do this, like ripping out stuff, throwing crap, honking your horn. I don't know. But like, that's not going to happen here. Okay. You're going to be like, okay, cool story, Kenny, but I've got to figure out my own why. I've got to figure out my own motivation. I'm not your motivation. Okay. Maybe for some people I am, but I'm really not your motivation. I'm just here to help you and guide you. So going back to me for a second, and I'm going to avoid like talking about when I got started, because like I said, I want to do that on another episode and share like the full story. But I really, really, really wanted flexibility, but more importantly, time. Get my time back and not feel like I was imprisoned. Okay. When I went to my W-2 job every single day, I mean, I love my boss. He was a really, really cool guy, actually. Like, great boss. But man, oh man, the job sucked. The conditions the closet I was working in sucked. Like the perks, like there just weren't that many perks. There just weren't that many like awesome things. And it was just corporate life, and people were like, there's a rat race. People are climbing the ladder. And when I'm looking at my situation, and I go to work, my wife, we had a newborn at the time, and I'm like, I gotta go to work, and leave her there, and it's just like, it sucks. And I remember going to a mastermind meeting for the first time, and everybody there was like pretty much a professional real estate investor. They are like entrepreneur. they were flexible. And at the end, it was over, and I had taken the time off from my work to be there, and I had to fly back so I could get back to work and do all this stuff. It was like a 2-day event. So I'd taken my time, my precious 19 days I had, I'd taken 2 out just for this event. Amazing event. I was super motivated. But man, oh man, I felt like dejected when there was 10 of us there, and I was the only person that left on time because I had to go home, and everybody else was going and looking at deals because they were so motivated, like, let's do this, and they were out searching, and they're like, we're going to push our flights and leave at another time. And I just remember, like, I went to the airport, I was just like banging my head, and I'm like, I'm out in 5 years. Like, I want to be able to do that. Or if I was in my family vacation and we were having a great time, and I could just be like, hey, let's stay an extra day or two, because why not? And have that flexibility to do that. For me, I was like, this is the flame. That's like the kindling. And when the flame started with then to like, I'm going to do this in 5 years. I remember telling myself that. All right. That was 3 years ago. So I haven't even hit 5 years yet, and I've already done that. That's how motivated it pushed me to get to that level. I remember walking around my building at the corporate level in the summertime when it was nice weather outside, day after day. I would literally walk around the building, like take a break, I'd walk for like seriously like 20 minutes straight and just circling the building going like, okay, what can I do today? What one thing can I do today that can help me eventually walk away from this job? What is it going to take? All right. Things evolved and STR Insights popped up. And, like I said, I'll go into more historical storytelling view on another episode. But the reality is that why of that flexibility and that motivation got me there to a point where I can be more flexible now in my life. And there's other goals, there's other things that I'm trying to obtain. Have I hit the ultimate, time freedom? I can walk away from my job and take time off. Not quite yet. I mean, yes, I can take time off. The most I've taken off is like 3 weeks, and it was super nerve-wracking, but I did it, and the business was still alive, but there's still things to fix behind it. So there's a little bit, there's more work to be done, but I'm getting there. And the reality is, with just short-term rentals, my why was the motivation, but I already knew this was a hospitality business, and I already knew I wanted to double down and invest in it. And once I accepted what I had to do to get it to the next level, and meaning like treat this like a serious business, like a true investor, like a true entrepreneur, and have that motivation, find that why. So those two things together, boy, did I shoot off and scale. How I scaled, in my opinion, I think it's interesting, but I don't think anybody listening to this show or anybody who hears my story of how I scaled can actually replicate what I did, because the times have changed and the markets have shifted. You have to figure that out on your own. Now, you can take concepts and things that you learn and apply that to help you, but the reality is you have to pave your own journey. And please, by no means take this as I'm already there. I've already got it all figured out, because I really don't. I've just reached certain levels, and I'm able to recognize how far I've come as well. But the realization that I'm having is, the more and more I go and invest into short-term rentals, I don't like some of it. Like, I don't like dealing with my pricing. I don't like having to deal with guest messages or the late night calls or some of these other things that we have to deal with as business owners in the hospitality space. And so for me, what I've come to realize is I need to surround myself by other people who like, or maybe don't mind, executing on those things for me. And so I began partnering with more people and handing off the operations to training VAs how to do it, or other companies who, like, for example, revenue managers who deal with pricing on a weekly basis, because I personally know that I cannot be consistent with it. But in order for me, I know this, and you need to know this too, in order for me to be successful in this space, even though I don't mind the hospitality side and I actually enjoy that side of it, I remember creating that experience for other people to enjoy. In order for me to be successful at this business, I have to do those things that I don't like to do. But if I can hire them out, this makes it a lot easier. So this isn't just your brick and mortar real estate. I'm going to go and set it and forget it. That mentality was in 2021, and that worked then. It doesn't work today. It has to be treated like a true hospitality business. How can we cater to the guests? How can we add the right amenities, the right design and decor, the right experiences, so that when the guests come, the right presentation. Okay, that's after that interview I did with Sarah and Annette for Thanks for Visiting, and listening to them talk and emphasize presentation. If you haven't heard that episode, go back and listen to it. Super helpful. I think it was last week's episode. When I heard that, when I was just talking to them and their emphasis on presentation of the guests, I was like, man, I need to do a better job of that, because that is true hospitality. And that shows up in the numbers. That shows up at your bottom line when you're trying to cash flow positive. So treat this like a true business, a hospitality business, not a real estate business. Okay. I've heard this a lot, so I'm just gonna regurgitate it out for everybody. You are in a hospitality business if you have short-term rentals. You're not in a traditional real estate business. Get that out of your head. If you're trying to compare, I'm going to make more money as a short-term rental than a long-term rental. Yes, number-wise, you should, technically. I mean, for those of you who buy wrong, that's not the case, but we're going to assume you do, buy right. So yes, you will make more money, but your time you're going to have to give more time to it. And a lot of people are underestimating the amount of time and effort and energy that has to go into this. So if you are starting out in this and you understand these concepts, I'm going to have to figure out these things. I'm going to have to learn new things, do trainings, learn new software, show up to conferences and events, network with other individuals to get better in my niche, which is your hospitality business, then you are ready. Or you are, well on your way if you've already been doing that stuff. But if a lot of that stuff scares you and you're like, I don't really feel comfortable doing any of that, Kenny, and you don't have to be an extra, you don't have to just be an extrovert to be able to do all this stuff. You can be an introvert and still learn and grow and show up to these things and just learn. But it's going out of your way to constantly try to innovate, meaning learn new software and technologies that can help you in your systems and processes and operations, so that you can be more hospitable. Learning is key in this industry. With long-term rentals, it's a very set it and forget it kind of play. This, you have to learn. If you're willing to learn and you're willing to be hospitable, you're well on your way and you're in a good place, because you will actually cash flow positive if you have the right mentality and the right mindset. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. On the next episode, I'm bringing in a special guest who is a tech. His background is in tech, but he's in the hospitality industry. And I think it's really important. He's going to talk a lot about enhancing the guest experience. How do we do that? How do we make the right experience, but on a budget and not overspend? And I really want you to pay attention to those key things, the experience, right? Last time, talked a lot about presentation. Now the emphasis is on the guest experience. And then also doing that on a budget, because let's be honest, we don't want to spend like $300,000 on crap that we don't really need to. And a lot of us don't have that kind of money. So pay attention, show up for that episode. I'm telling you, it's going to be worth it. And I will see you on the next episode of Cash Flow Positive.